Hello everyone, my name is Dark Hero, welcome back to Granblue Fantasy Relink. In today's video I want to go over some beginner mistakes that I think I was personally doing and that a lot of newer players may be making as well, so I will be going over that so you can have the best experience possible with this game. As you can see right here, I already have a couple of level 63 characters, so I've been playing the game quite a lot. I have unlocked plenty of characters and I can even unlock a few more. As you can see, I have a couple of crewmate cards that I can use already, and I can even be farming a few more. So the very first thing I want to talk about is character levels. You see, when you first unlock a character in Granblue Fantasy Relink, their level is going to be determined by the max level of your characters. This means that if you unlock a character very early on, like for example I unlocked Vaseraga very early on, and because I then swapped out of him and decided to keep playing with Siegfried, or with Narmaya, or even Percival, Vaseraga ended up falling off a little bit in levels. And so if I want him to keep up, I'll have to grind for a little bit. Well, something you can do actually is, you can simply choose to wait on using your crewmate cards until you get to a higher level, and so whenever you summon these characters, they're going to come at an already higher level. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the game does automatically level some of these characters up. For example, I never really played much with Io or Eugen or even Katalina, but they are still at an appropriate level. But if you want some of your favorites to be keeping up in levels, you can wait until, for example, you reach the endgame, and let's say we want to unlock Vane. Let's check out his gacha animation. Vane, join your journey. As you can see, Vane is now level 45, which is the exact same as my Vaseraga, which I even ended up playing for quite a while. Another important thing about saving up the tickets to unlock characters later on is that whenever you choose to do so, you'll come with all of these masteries already unlocked. Sure, it's not all of them, but having over half of your masteries unlocked from the get-go is going to save you up a ton of mastery points, and when some of these very important skills, like this one which would give you an additional sigil, cost hundreds if not thousands of mastery points, taking that extra step in making sure that you save some masteries is going to end up helping you in the long run. Now, of course, keep in mind that this is a video game, so play however you want to play. If you find that, for example, playing as Narmaya is more fun and you want to have her from the get-go, or you want to unlock different characters, try them all out very early on into the game, then who the hell am I to tell you to not do that? Go ahead and unlock all of them and have a good time. And if I want to take Vane straight into the endgame content, he is going to be lacking compared to the rest of my other characters. That being said, speaking of party compositions, I think that a mistake that a lot of people are going to be making early on into the game, and something that a lot of people have told me in my live streams and in the comment section as well, is that they have spent a lot of time making party compositions worrying about having a healer or a dedicated support that focuses on debuffs and buffing the party. Personally, I wouldn't worry about that, as the game, even on the hard difficulty, rarely requires you to actually use your heals unless you're playing someone like Vaseraga that focuses on losing HP to deal as much damage as possible. The amount of consumable items the game gives you are going to be plenty, and if that wasn't enough, you can also gain additional consumable items via the mastery menu, so that is something to keep in mind as well. Another big mistake that I was making throughout the game, and apparently everybody else in chat was also making that same mistake because when I pointed that out, no one had realized that's how this mechanic worked, was that whenever you go down in combat, you enter the critical mode, and whenever that runs out, you are considered dead and fail the quest. Now, a very important thing is that you can actually get back up by having teammates revive you, or by letting the gauge in your character portrait fill up. Well, the thing about it is that you can actually make it fill up faster. If you just mash the buttons, and I do mean pretty much any button, you will be able to revive and get back up much quicker. And again, the game does not tell you about this, so it is a pretty big mistake that a lot of you are going to be making. I was not doing this the entire time up until, again, level 63, which is pretty much the endgame, so do not forget about this. Another mistake that I think I've seen a lot of people talking about in my comment section is regarding all the chests and hidden items that you can pick up while you are doing a story mission. If you've put some hours into this game, you've realized that you cannot go back and do these missions. You can come here to the quest counter and pick up all sorts of quests, but you don't find a way to actually go back to those areas and get everything that you possibly missed. Well, the mistake here is that you don't have to lose a lot of time trying to get everything done, and you don't have to worry about it because once you finish the story, you will be able to come up here to the quest counter and you'll have the option to go here into chapter select, and here you can pick any of the chapters that you have played so far. I will not go farther to the right to avoid any spoilers, but you can see the icons down there below telling you the amount of chests, the hidden pots as well as the hidden crabs that are available to be found on that map and the ones that you have collected. As you can see, I still need to pick up a lot of these, so I will be doing that later on, but it's something that, again, you don't need to worry about. Another big mistake that I was doing, and frankly took me quite some time to realize, was that I was not using the Skybound arts properly. And because they are such a fundamental core mechanic to the gameplay, seeing as that's where a lot of your damage is going to come from, I was really not using this mechanic to its fullest potential, and I think it's the same for a lot of you. So the Skybound arts are these very powerful and flashy abilities that whenever you activate them, you'll trigger a short cutscene, and then if the rest of your party members have enough gauge, they will jump in and use their Skybound arts as well. Now, I have already talked about these settings in my previous video, where you can kinda tell the party when to use the Skybound art, so you can have better control over them, making the party prioritize targeting the boss, activating Skybound arts whenever they can only trigger the full burst, and whether or not the Skybound art will override the chain bursting. And all of that is pretty good and helpful, but even if you are waiting to see if the rest of your party can also perform the Skybound arts, there are a few more things that you can optimize. One key thing is that whenever you try to perform a Skybound art, you will perform an attack that is different depending on the character you're using, and you are invulnerable while you are performing that attack. Meaning that if the boss is doing a big, powerful AoE that one-shots you, you can simply ignore all of that, stay in the big AoE damage zone, and throw the Skybound art to keep on dealing damage to the enemy. So you can use that as a little bit of a defensive maneuver, or again, just a way to maintain DPS uptime. And that is especially important because in a lot of endgame quests, you want to be able to finish those quests as fast as possible to get all the rewards from them, and whenever you trigger the Skybound arts, you'll see that the timer actually stops. Another thing about the Skybound arts is that it seems as though the damage that you get from using them whenever the character is broken or whenever you are in a link time doesn't get increased all that much compared to the rest of your other attacks. So from my experience, it's actually best to use the Skybound arts to break the enemies and to enter link time so that you can deal as much damage as possible during those big windows of opportunity. I still need to do further testing with this, but again, from my experience all the way up to level 63, this seems to be the best approach to using Skybound arts. Another thing to keep in mind is that there are some characters like Gran Djeeta as well as Charlotta that have the ability to redistribute their own Skybound art gauge to all of their allies. And in the case of Gran Djeeta, the amount that is shared is going to be increased based on your arts level, which is Gran Djeeta's main mechanic. This may seem like a bit of a useless skill, or you may even think that it is actually harming your gameplay by using this, when in fact if you are playing these characters especially offensively, you'll be able to fill up your Skybound art gauge very quickly at a much faster rhythm compared to the rest of your allies, and so having the ability to provide that extra Skybound art gauge to your allies, allowing them to perform the Skybound art, which will also give you some whenever they use it, will allow you and your team to execute many more full bursts, which is always what you want to aim for whenever doing a Skybound art. So do pay attention to what you're doing with this mechanic, as it has quite a few more intricacies than it may seem at first. Another big mistake that I saw a lot of people mentioning and asking about whenever I was live streaming the game was why I wasn't selling some of these items that you pick up throughout the game. As, for example, here with the prism chip, I end up with a surplus of these items, having 98 of this item alone. And as you can see, I have tons more items, and I actually got rid of many of them. So the reason why you want to keep them is not to actually sell them, because rupees, the main currency of the game, won't be much of an issue for most of your playthrough. You actually want to keep those items because once you reach the endgame, after you beat the story, you'll be able to trade this in for what is called gold and silver Dahlia badges. and you can trade these Dahlia badges for materials that you're going to need to craft new weapons and upgrade them, fortitude crystals or even powerful sigils, and specifically in the case of the gold Dahlia badges, you can trade them for mastery points in the form of the ambrosia, XP books in the form of copper spellbook, and you can even trade them for a crewmate card to unlock a new character, more knickknack vouchers, or fortitude crystals, or these clusters which can be exchanged for rupees. Something important to keep in mind here is that these 3 items have limited stocks, but only the ambrosia states that it will be restocked every Sunday, so I would prioritize trying to get these ambrosia first, as these 2 items will not restock, so come next Sunday you'll be able to purchase even more ambrosia. And those were what I believe to be some of the biggest mistakes that I was making on my playthrough of Granblue Fantasy Relink. Now that I am in the endgame, I will be making endgame guides as well as build videos dedicated to each of the different characters, so let me know which one you would like to see first. Subscribe if you want to see more Granblue Fantasy Relink videos, and if you have any questions about the game, show up in my live streams and feel free to ask anything. With that being said, my name is Dark Hero, thank you very much for watching, and as always, happy hunting!